was on April 9th. Please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We have some resolutions to dispose of. The first one is 128 Main Street owner, LLC.
Make a motion to accept the resolution as written.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Off you go.
Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you.
Make that very easy.
See you soon. All right.
DLVDD LLC, 379 Dune Road.
Make a motion to accept the resolution as written.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Lindell, May, and Eduardo, 12 Stacy Drive.
Make a motion to accept the resolution as written.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Even Constructi, 7 Cox Curve.
Make a motion to accept the resolution as written.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We have a public hearing, I guess, on the fill application for Paradise West Hampton Beach LLC for 14 Dune Road.
Yeah, so we held this open because we wanted revisions and there was concern about pulling it with the traffic. Ron and I looked at it again. We got the latest revisions. It's very tight, but there's no alternative, so I think we're gonna move on. I think we're
So
ready.
we'll have a resolution at the next meeting so we can close the public hearing on this. Is anybody here for this? Okay, I need a motion to close the public hearing.
The motion will close the public hearing
Second.
for a
All in
resolution at the
favor?
next meeting.
Aye. Okay, we're gonna start the work session agenda. Old Riverhead Road Partners, 68 Old Riverhead Road. We'll push them for a little while. 112 Old Riverhead Road. Appliance World.
Yes, sir.
Good evening, Chairman, members of the board. Thank you for hearing our application this evening. My name is Gabby Chillinger, an architect. 132 Unit 2 Main Street is where my office is. I'm here before you this evening representing my clients Appliance World with the submission in hand. Our clients have retained us to provide architectural plans and present to the planning board to secure approvals on their improvements on the internal and exterior. We're excited about being a part of this renovation, as we know that the building's been dormant for some time and definitely needs some TLC. So currently, the building is vacant, and previously, there was a car dealership following a restaurant and then purchased by municipality for assisted living, which fell through, therefore, my clients purchased it. Starting with the site plan, we're proposing no changes to the site plan. In our opinion, the parking is adequate to support the structure that we're requesting for the volume of patrons and employees. We are proposing approximately 30 people at all times to use this building, 10 employees, and maximum volume of 20 patrons coming in. So anytime you drive by the facility, you're going to see a lot of vacant spots, which I think is beneficial. It's not going to be cluttered, et cetera, for that. Again, we're requesting no site plan change to it. We're not requesting any square footage changes to the existing building. The only thing that we are doing, which is going to be increased slightly, is we're adding some awnings, which trigger some coverage calculations. Regardless, we're way below what's permissible. Right, so I also took into consideration when approaching this project to walk Hazelwood Avenue, which is the property located behind the street of the lot line. So we have about 30-foot hedges in the back of our property, so there'll be no disturbance to those. There's about 6 residential homes to that. The interiors will be an open concept with exhibits of kitchens. It's a really nice state-of-the-art set up for the community and all the work that's in this area. The exterior, as we're aware, is currently very loud and needs a lot of work and in repair. So we've submitted some renderings for review. We're slightly modifying the colors, but at the same time trying to keep them at a low reflective feel because it's such a large size. We're trying to keep the colors organic on the browns and the darker blacks, which is within the submission. I have some materials here I can pass around that we're proposing. So the primary function of the building will be used as owner occupied. It will not be rented, and it's a family-run business. So with that being said, I did some renderings. I threw them up. I'm sure you guys can see them as well. Whenever I do a project, I've been before the board before. I live in West Hampton. I love West Hampton, and I make sure that I walk around and I speak to people and I show people what's happening. So the community is very happy with the proposal, and I do that before I come and present to ARB or the planning board or zoning board. So I do believe that Old River Road is a main artery coming into West Hampton, which is very important to pay attention to detail, while at the same time making sure it's not a bright light like it currently is. We laugh about it in my office. We say right now, the aliens from Mars could see it at night, so we're trying to scale that down to kind of give us a softer feel to the project itself. And so this is the front portion. The right side is what we're proposing. The left side is what's existing, again, at the bottom. So these are off of Old Riverhead Road. You have the southeast corner. You have the south view on both sides. Then you have the northeast corner. This is primarily what you'll be seeing, which has the most exposure. And then in the back of the building, we're kind of following the same scheme. And for financial purposes, we're going to be painting the color, which is not exposed that much to Old Riverhead Road. So this is the side view. This is the northwest view. This is what's proposed. This is what's existing. And then the back, we're just going to match the color of the TimberTech that I've shown below. And this is what our proposed scheme is. So this would be the majority of the finish of the building. And then these will be the accents. So they're matte type.
Well, you don't have to go through that,
Yes, sir.
because we're gonna send you to the
Yes,
Architectural
yes.
Review Board.
So, I think with that being said, that was pretty much what I tried to relay to the board this evening.
It's a good presentation.
Thank you.
Yeah, very nice looking.
Thank you
You
so
guys, are you gonna keep, there was a contract with with like Verizon or somebody for cell tower? Is
Yes,
that-
sir. We've been, it's definitely been a struggle with Verizon because I just wanted to make sure there was a lot of opposition recently when they initially proposed their system there. So they're slightly modifying their system, and they will also be before the planning board as well. If they did not submit an application yet, they will. However, they are maintaining that, and I just confirmed and made sure the level of frequency that is being taken out into the area, the projection is going to match it or be less than what they currently have. But I'm not the engineer for that, but they are going to keep to that style of use.
And that fits into your scenario for that cleaned up looking structure instead
Yes, sir.
of two towers.
Correct.
Certainly an improvement.
Yeah, major.
Well, I know that there were some comments regarding lettering and signage and stuff like that, but again, I think this board's responsibility is to get you to the Architectural Review Board next.
Where were the awnings gonna be?
So the awnings are,
Across that, on the first level?
yeah, at the ground floor.
Uh-huh.
So what we're doing is, currently, they have these like crazy towers out of there. And we're gonna be removing all this crown-like detail that's falling apart. So within these, I guess they're calling catacombs, is where Verizon has their apparatuses and their structure. So we're gonna be squaring that off. And then the awnings, quite honestly, are only on this lower portion, on the east view, and then on the west view.
Is that the entrance
Yes, sir. The entrance will be,
Will be on the south
Yes, sir.
side of the building.
that's correct.
Yeah, okay.
That's correct.
And that's where the awnings will be.
Yes, sir.
Do you have any graphics of the awnings?
We have some on the plans. I can bring this closer to you so you can see it. It's 'cause
Well, it doesn't have the awning on it, does it?
it does.
You can barely see it.
Yeah.
It's a very small,
Yeah, it's a small,
you can see the.
it's this little guy right
okay,
here.
I get it.
Do you know if the material at top, when you take the towers off, is that RF transparent?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
It is stealth material, that's correct. So they have a terminology that they use. It's a very expensive product, and it's for the frequency of the signal to transmit in and out. So unfortunately, my client has a lease with them and is responsible for that. So the building itself, plus the materials that we're proposing, the composites that I'm showing, there's a reason why we're using those, because what these materials do, it restricts the radio frequency, like the gentleman said, to bounce off further. Their engineers will be before you to present that as well. However, the awnings are very low-key, just to kind of give you like a focal point on how to enter. They're about 4.5 feet in depth, and then the width of the doors.
The reason I asked the question is it might change the material that they're gonna use. So I was just asking now, that's what you're proposing, but if that material isn't RF transparent, then they're gonna propose something else.
Right, so everything that we've designed, the aesthetic will look like this. They can pretty much make anything you want with the RF. So if, let's say, for example, we want a stucco finish, which is not what we're proposing, but it's called a lath metal that they put around, and that encapsulates their equipment.
Yeah, I'm familiar with that
You-
business.
Yes. Oh, good. All right, so you know it's not
That's
cheap.
why I was asking, because I was
Gotcha.
like, well, is it gonna change? Because that's the presentation.
Yes.
But is it gonna remain like that?
It will remain like this.
Okay.
This was submitted to Verizon prior to putting the application in.
Okay.
Now, were we doing any more landscaping on the property than around the building foundation itself? Are there some trees to break up the lawn or something like that?
Currently, there's no proposal. We're really trying to respect the previous site plan that was approved with the downlighting, the dark sky, the parking. We can always make some adjustments to it if that's a comment the board does have. We have no issue adding landscaping.
You're also removing those concrete pads, the show pads for the cars.
That's correct, on grade. Yes, there's a couple of pads that they had. I'm sure you guys know the building better than I do, you've been here longer. They used to put vehicles on there, we're just gonna eliminate them.
Not vehicles, Rolls-Royce.
Rolls Royces, I apologize. Yeah.
I just had some limited comments regarding the site plan. None of those spaces currently are delineated,
Okay,
so, we'd just like to see them, restripe the parking lot.
sure.
Make sure you have handicap space and signage. I couldn't, it doesn't appear to exist now. It may have been worn off or something.
We have them on the south side, if you see, yeah.
The floodlights around the building, they don't meet our code,
Okay,
so we do need exterior lighting that meets our code proposed.
okay.
And, I just had a question about, I'm not familiar with the term live kitchen. Is that something where you're gonna be cooking? Is there any need for a provision for sort of food waste handling? If there is, we should include that in the site plan. I didn't see that there was a dumpster at all delineated or enclosure or screening. So I would imagine with appliances and boxes and potentially food waste, refuse is definitely gonna need to be a consideration.
Okay,
And I just recommended that we could break up the front, especially if you're taking those slabs out. Maybe you just put a couple trees, street trees or something just to block that massive facade. You've done an incredible job. I like your design. It's a tough building to make beautiful.
Yeah.
And
Exhausting.
you're definitely going in the right direction, but I
Right.
think some trees would also help.
that's fine. Yeah, we have no problem with that.
That's all my comments.
Well, you're probably gonna need a separate, like, cardboard disposal, because you're gonna have different types of, and I'm sure you're gonna have a ton of cardboard,
Okay,
so.
And maybe pallets? I don't know, you might wanna
yeah,
ask them what provision.
The refuse needs are gonna have to be addressed.
right. Yeah, it's fine.
Plenty of room for
We
it.
have plenty of room. You took the words right out of my mouth.
We just wanna make sure that it's
Absolutely.
neat, organized, screened, and not
And that we
visible
don't
from Riverhead
see
Road.
the heavy equipment from Riverhead Road.
Of course not. All the loading will be obviously from the back, and they do have, what's nice about this building is they have the elevator
Yeah.
for the Rolls Royces to bring them in and out. So I think that with that, what they do is, all the equipment comes in, it goes to the basement, and then everything is unpacked in the basement, and then they'll put it back into the elevator, and then typically they have a truck that comes, Brandon, and they take all the cardboard boxes away. They very rarely remain on site. That's the same model they have in their Oyster Bay showroom and their village, because they don't have space there. So anytime it's unboxed, they just set it up, and then they have a company that comes and takes it.
So they pick up they bring back used equipment that, like old refrigerators and stuff that they'll go down the basement and then
Correct.
come out.
Correct, correct. And it's a fascinating setup. I don't know if you've ever been there. So they have about 20 stations set up. So you can physically walk through and get a feel for, the sink goes on sometimes, but it's more of a showroom setup.
All right, so our next action here is to send this applicant to the Architectural Review Board. Do I need a motion for that? Not really, we're in a work session.
Yeah, so, process-wise, it would be a type 2 action. For this level of alteration, the public hearing is in the not required category. So of course, as the planning board, it's always up to you if you want to hold a public hearing or not. ARB would be the sole referral to do, and we do all have comments, but we're trying not to confuse the applicant and the board by just withholding the comments until this first meeting, and then we'll present you with some comments tomorrow, and then you can respond in writing to the record.
Certainly will.
I didn't think about it, and you mentioned the lighting plan, but, I remember this plan, and we did a lighting at the time, but it's changed, so we'll probably need a photogrammetric plan.
Are any of the comments the kind of comments that would impede them moving on to the ARB? Doesn't sound like.
No, I just read through mine. No, they're all site plan issues.
so
The
they can still
ARB
be
is
taken
really
care
for the
of.
building.
You can go on 2 tracks, then go.
The minor site plan issues.
I think we should get, like, one of my comments is, we should get something from Verizon because the enclosures are changing. And, whether they make their own application or authorize this application to proceed, doesn't matter to me, just, I don't wanna.
From the
Sure.
sounds of it, they're gonna be making an application to us.
They are, yes, sir. To Brad's comment, they just sent us the plans. I reviewed them. And the reason why we were trying to drive the machine, because obviously they don't care about aesthetics. So we worked on this for about a year or so. And I think that based on our driven, I'm glad that everyone likes the appearance, and I'll present it before ARB. But I made sure that the design of the aesthetic wasn't left in their hand, which was a big financial thing for my client, because they're paying a lot of money every month, and I got to hear that on every job. But that's kind of like where we are with that. So
What you'd probably need then is either tell them to get their application in if they're going to, or give you some kind of authorization to say they're good with this, because it's true that they have their own set of permits
Yes.
that are related to their use, and so we just need to make sure they both run with the property.
Absolutely.
The site plan and the Verizon permit, so we just need to make sure everybody's on the same page. Either way, if they
Yes,
file
sir.
their own application that covers it, if they give you an authorization consenting to this plan, that covers it too.
very good, no problem. So the
It's
next
ever
step,
simple.
yeah. So I'll go to ARB and then correct the comments and come back to the planning board.
Right.
With
Do you have
ARB
any more
approval.
comments, Larry? No? I think it looks great.
Thank
Great.
you so much.
Good start.
Thank you.
I really didn't ask him. Let's,
No, the only thing I'll say
You
is,
got me last time.
I have a feeling based on, I didn't even think about the dumpsters, but just going off the top of my head, a lot of times they'll have like a very large dumpster just for the cardboard, and then you'll have another one, so you might
but
have
he's
a.
not saying that. He's saying that they're taking the cardboard off site.
Yes,
That's
sir.
what they're doing.
So you're not gonna have
So,
It's not gonna be
anything
outside.
stored outside.
correct, the model would be, if there's, obviously, there is some opposition, which I
Excuse
agree
me?
with. Yeah, I do agree with your comment. And I will mandate and enforce that anytime they unpackage something, it goes back into the elevator, the garage, and then gets shipped out it will not be on the exterior. we won't have any of that.
So we could put a condition in the decision
Absolutely.
saying no outdoor storage of cardboard, and
Correct.
you wouldn't care,
Yes, sir.
right?
Yeah. I live here too, I don't wanna see that myself.
Or old appliances, no outdoor.
No, they won't line them up outside, don't worry.
This is a nice establishment, you're not gonna want garbage outside,
Absolutely.
right?
Yes.
I mean,
That's-
let's hope.
Well,
Kind of
anything you could
detract
write-
from your site if you did.
Correct.
Anything you could write that would stipulate that would be
Yeah.
great. All right, so then we're gonna submit a recommendation to the Architectural Review Board.
Just do a plan referral, see what they have to say.
Make sure you coordinate that with Brad to get all the things required for the ARB.
Absolutely. Yep, I'll work with Brad and Britton and Ron.
Thank you very much.
Thank
We're
you.
looking
Thank you
forward
so
to
much.
That site cleaning up like this.
Thank you
Very
so
nice.
much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Aspetuck Tennis Club. And West Hampton Synagogue.
You know, that gingerbread on top of the Verizon stuff.
Yes.
I insisted on that.
Good evening. Steve Naroda with Aris Design and Landscape Architects. Our office is 38 Nugent Street in Southampton. I'm joined by Amanda Sharadi from my office. She's a landscape architect. Rabbi Mark Schneer is here, just in case we have to field some questions. We're here tonight to request a site plan waiver for the application that we submitted. I don't know, Britton, if you want to
Just to be clear,
introduce it.
for somehow we skipped Aspetuck Tennis, this is Hampton Synagogue.
Yeah,
Okay.
nobody answered.
Oh. Okay.
I don't see anybody. Is anybody here for the Aspetuck Tennis?
No.
Okay. I did ask.
I didn't hear you, sorry.
Should I continue?
Sorry to interrupt.
No, no worries, of course. So we submitted a site plan. This is a site plan waiver we're requesting, primarily for security purposes. We're requesting to install a security fence around the perimeter of the property. It's a little different because we're on the corner where we're located. We feel it's vulnerable because of the intersection of Brook and Sunset, specifically there. But all along Sunset, there's a vulnerability there. So at the beginning of this, when we were approached by Rabbi and his team to help design this and come up with some campus upgrades, we began to interact with Liron Philibee, who's a security consultant for the synagogue. He is, I just want to get his name right, just his position right. He's the Long Island Security Director of Community Service Initiative. So he was able to provide us with some background and security measures that we need to consider as part of what we need to do for the perimeter fence. So primarily you want to look at anti-ramming, so cars, we don't want to allow cars that can build up speed, especially at the corner of Brook and Sunset. If they can build up speed to 30 miles per hour, we're vulnerable there because of that intersection. Also coming from the south, going north along Sunset, there's also another vulnerability there as you approach Cayley Center, which is the building on the south side of the campus. So with his guidance, we were looking at needing a 6-foot height barrier that a car can't ram through, and then also would not be easy to climb over. So these are the things that we were challenged or tasked with to design in an aesthetically pleasing way. We want to make it look beautiful. We want it to be an upgrade to the campus. So when you look at Sunset Avenue, currently the condition, there's a berm that runs along north-south along Sunset. There are existing trees along the sidewalk and up on the berm between the Cayley Center and the sanctuary. Do you need to reference a plan? Do you want to open it up?
No,
That'd be helpful. Okay.
I think everybody's got paperwork.
So as you come up Sunset, there's the berm is planting there between the Cayley Center and the sanctuary. There are arborvitaes up on the berm that no longer provide screening. The lower limbs have died off. So we want to, part of this effort is to plant or upgrade the planting. So part of what Mr. Philby was asking us to do is to create an anti-ramming barrier, we needed bollards set about 3.5 feet on center. So we wanted to look at how we can integrate that into the fence that we're proposing. The fence would be, is a black vinyl, a black aluminum fence, integrating with bollards. So we were concerned whether cars could still ram through that. So part of the concept is to have trees behind it. So we'd have a hedge in front of the fence and then trees behind it in a row to help create more of a barrier from ramming. We have some renderings if that we can.
Is this just for the synagogue? Does it pick up Jack's house or the adjacent, the structure in the rear with the pool and everything?
No, it's just for the synagogue, so it's the campus on the east side of Sunset. So the thought there is, we're gonna have aluminum fence with security bollards set within it along Sunset, basically from where the main entrance is, south of Cayley Center, coming north, past the Cayley Center, as you go north, we're proposing a 6-foot height fence with a hedge in front of it, backed by a row of trees. As you go north toward the sanctuary, the grade gets higher on that berm. There's a donor garden called Chelsea's Garden as you go north, and the grade there is quite a bit higher. And you'll see on the existing conditions on the site today, there's a simple stacked stone wall that sits along the edge, along the sidewalk. That's because the grade gets quite a bit higher there. There's a garden that was donated, it's in front of the main entrance of the sanctuary. So as we go north, to hold the grade, our thought was to remove the existing stack stone and introduce a low wall, a concrete wall that would have a veneer on it. Right there would be about a 2-foot height wall to help hold the berm. And then as you go north, we would transition up to a 4-foot height wall, clad with this stone here. This is stone from Israel. So we would want to put this veneer on the wall, just as it's a decorative element, it's very beautiful, but it's also would be clad or veneering a concrete stem wall, which would help create the anti-ramming barrier that we need. We want to have the idea to have the wall in the corners to really make a statement about the security emphasis of the property. We want the people to see that we're aware of that. So that's partly why we wanted to expose the wall there at that location. The rest of the perimeter along Brook would be a 6-foot high aluminum fence. And then as you come down the east side of the property where it butts residential properties, that would just be a 6-foot high fence going back down to the south, and then wrapping along the south side of the property where adjacent to the bank.
You're pretty confident about those bollards?
We feel, yes, very confident,
Yeah.
yes.
I noticed was that Bloomfield, Michigan, where that
Yes.
truck drove through there?
Yeah.
Yeah, I noticed from the aerials on that they didn't impact the bollards at all. I don't know how they went around them, but they didn't seem to have any deterrent effect whatsoever.
This is something Mr. Philby was really emphasizing with us, is that you need to be 3 feet or 3.5 feet on center at max with the bollards, so that a car couldn't get between them. They're integrated into the fencing we're proposing.
Does that mean that there's gonna be fence posts, will be 3 feet, is that?
So, yeah, so the typical panel of this fence is 8-foot
Yeah.
post on each side, and then there'll be posts that be integrated into the fence itself.
So it'll be every 3 feet?
So these
Yes.
images you have of this fence have nothing to do with the fence you're putting in. Concept image of security fencing, that's got nothing to do with it.
That's the look of the fence. That's the
That's
look
got
of
nothing
it.
to do with the fence you're putting in.
Well, though, what it looks like, that's what it'll look like.
Not with 3 foot on center ballards.
Well, the bollards will be black, they'll match the fence, and it'll be set against the fence, so.
These are 8 foot, what you're showing us here.
Yeah, so you'd have bollards that are come up to 4 foot height?
And these ballards that I'm seeing on this fence, they're not the ballards we're talking about, right?
Are you talking about, you're talking about the,
Security fence.
The aluminum fence with the posts.
oh, yeah, you're talking about the pickets of the fence.
Yeah.
Well, the pickets are, no, those are standard picket, those aren't gonna change, those are staying the same. The bollards we're talking about are actual posts, they're 4-inch square posts.
Now, where's the graphic for that?
Is it a graphic? I don't think we have a graphic for that. It's a 4-inch black post. It's your standard post you'd see on the ends of a.
Going how high?
4 feet.
4 foot.
But the fence is going higher.
The fence is proposed to go higher, go up to 6 feet. Right, yes. So they're against the fence behind it, yeah.
But then you also have a hedge in front of that, right?
Correct. We have a hedge that runs along Sunset. We're also proposing where the wall starts, where the wall we're proposing, the hedge would stop there and we'd expose the wall at the corner of Brook. That's the area where we feel most vulnerable in their studies with the security consultant.
What kind of hedge is it?
It'd be an evergreen hedge, osmanthus particularly.
Not, well, it's not privet, it's gonna be something else.
It would be osmanthus because it's better against deer browse. Which we
That'd be
have
helpful.
plenty of.
Come on up. Come on up. No. Good to see you, Rabbi. Welcome.
Always a pleasure, thank you. So to give some color to this presentation, I'm glad you mentioned West Bloomfield. The Hampton Synagogue, we've been advised by every agency from the FBI to state to Israeli security Mossad, we are considered one of the prime targets of the American Jewish community. That's a fact. And we are, with the current situation, we are a disaster ready to happen. That's how serious this is. The law enforcement wanted us to build literally a wall around the entire property. And they said that not only is the wall there to protect us, but to send a message to anyone who will try to enter that property or try to drive a car onto that property, how secure this synagogue is now being guarded. So, in speaking with Brad, the mayor, and others, we understand you have certain restrictions when it comes to walls here in West Hampton Beach. So I think we went out of our way to compromise on what our needs are. I must tell you, law enforcement is not thrilled about it, but we come in here, ready to compromise in terms of having a fence, but we will need, in certain locations, a wall to give off the appearance that if you're thinking of driving your car as they did in West Bloomfield into this property, they must see that there's a wall there. So I just want to give you some color because I know we are blessed to live in this lovely village and we all enjoy the sea of tranquility. But you should know the nature of the synagogue today. I mean, you see who visits our synagogue. Every public official, from a president down, from a prime minister down, the fact that we're the only synagogue in America on national television every weekend on NBC, Comcast, 200,000 people watch us. I mean, we are considered a prime target for a terrorist attack. And why this is something we should have done yesterday, 6 months ago. I mean, we are just in a position, we're inviting a disaster to take place, to occur, a catastrophe in this village. And that's why we come to you. We spoke to Brad, and we spoke to several the members here, and we said, okay, we'll wait till March 26th for this meeting. But for us, this is time of the essence. And I must remind you, because I've always repeated what you said to me when I was here 18 months ago. I mean, I was just blown away by your very, very gracious words and sentiments when you said how the synagogue, whatever you do, we always look to elevate the beauty of this village. And even though our primary concern is security, if you look at the design of what we've done, it's only aesthetically going to elevate the beauty of this village. And for us to import the Jerusalem stone, I mean, that is priceless. That's a la Chihuly, to have that kind of stone in here. In fact, the irony is that with the war that's going on with Iran right now, the only delay, the stone must go through the Straits of Hormuz. Can you imagine this? Can you imagine this? All right, so that would be the only possible delay in terms of receiving the stone. But again, that's who we are. We only want to do the best for this village in terms of, from an aesthetic point of view. So I just wanted to give you a little color. When, this is my last point, when Steve mentioned Leron Philippi, he's not some just regular consultant, all right? He was anointed by the Jewish community of New York to be the head of security for the New York Jewish community. He's the former head of security for El Al. He works very closely, with the Israeli Mossad. This is the kind of team we put together to make sure that we will continue to flourish in this village without, God forbid, any incident here. So, thank you for allowing me to say a few words. I just want to give you a little color as to the sense of urgency and the seriousness of this request.
Thank you, Rabbi Griffin.
I've got a question about the pair gates, the vehicular gate, the access to the parking lot. I mean, if someone penetrated that gate, could they not go down, get her up a little speed and make a left-hand turn and go right through where the steps are shown? Or is
Can I
that,
approach to see that what you're referring to?
what?
Can I approach to that? I just want to see.
Yeah, there's the pair of gates that,
Once they're inside the parking lot, could they run into the building?
Into the building?
yeah.
They could, if we got through so that gate, the vehicular gate needs to be designed to,
Okay.
But it's gonna be
Avoid
open. I mean, people still have to come and go
Right,
through
right,
it,
yeah,
right?
so it'll be open at certain times, but it'll be closed, yeah.
So
there's a
so
vulnerability there, yeah.
hypothetically, like all of this, they could drive through an open gate and run into the building.
Could, yes.
Does that
Assuming
answer your
there's no
question?
cars parked.
Unless there is a retaining wall that runs along, it's existing bluestone stacked wall there along the front of the building.
Uh-huh.
I think would help prevent serious damage, but that's something that can be considered as far as maybe integrating some more bollards along the front of the Katy Center as well.
I mean, you look at places like the White House and stuff where you penetrate the gates and they got these spikes or whatever that comes up.
Yeah, the security measures
am I
get
looking at two
pretty
different
intense like that, we start.
Yeah. So this is the one that, now we're looking at two different graphics here. One that has a lovely hedge in front, and the other one that exposes this wall to the corner. I mean, the wall's gonna stop whoever tries to drive through it, there's no question about that. Certainly, the construction of this is gonna be intimidating to anybody who's driving by hypothetically, looking to do something malicious.
Yeah.
So the renderings, I guess, would indicate that there's a flexibility on the need to have this wall exposed on the corner, is that?
What we want to have is the hedge along to the south of the wall, so this is the best graphic to look at here. Sorry. With this image here, so you're at the corner.
Well, where is this?
The one that just shows all hedge.
Oh, yeah, so that one, that was an alternative, but we did fencing and bollards behind it.
Oh,
But we really, this wall is really, we feel, based on what the
Yeah.
security.
well, can we do the
consultant
wall and the hedge, so we don't see the wall along the corner?
Well, I think they wanna see the wall.
Yeah, the
Well,
idea is to show.
I mean,
those-
the idea is to make it impenetrable. Having the wall there will make it
It
impenetrable.
will.
And, you know, the hedge will give it an aesthetic that, you know, at
Definitely
least,
soften it up.
yeah,
We
give
were
the
thinking
village
you
a
could
little
plant
bit
at
of,
the base of the wall to soften it. We could have low grasses or low plantings in the base. It's
we're
only
still
4
looking
foot
at
high.
a block wall. I mean, you've got a beautiful rendering of the, entrance over here that has a great deal of the stone,
Yeah, that'd be the
I
main
get that,
pedestrian entrance.
you know. I get that, but, I don't know that we need, I don't know.
Yeah, I agree with the idea, though, that you see a big wall, you're not as prone to try to drive through it as you would be this upper view here, which shows,
You could try.
looks like a hedge, that you can make it through. You know,
No, you could try, if the wall's in back of the hedges, you're not getting any,
no.
any
True.
further than
Yeah,
that wall, no
yeah,
matter
that's-
what you do.
Yeah, that's right.
In walking the site several times with Lerone Philippi, that corner is the biggest concern of his. That's where, when we needed a wall, we started to think about that stacked stone wall that exists on the streetscape right now, because it's holding that berm a little bit. We started to replace that. We need something to hold, so we need the wall there anyway, and we swoop it around like that. It really creates a statement that we want to make to the public face there, and do it in a beautiful way.
I don't know that this community needs that kind of statement.
I don't have a problem with it. As long as it looks good and solid, instead of a cinder block wall that you can
No.
ram your way through.
It would be clad with this. This is the stone from Israel.
Yeah, I've used that before. It's nice stone,
It's really beautiful.
beautiful.
Dave, do you have any comments?
I'm just struggling to think of anywhere in the village where we have anything remotely similar to this. And in no way to diminish that the synagogue faces unique issues. There's no way to diminish that at all. But I do have a concern that once we crack this door, it's gonna get harder and harder. You know,
We're gonna wall everything up.
people are gonna want walls and walls and walls. And I'm no security expert, not even close. But if history has taught us anything that you can build, somebody will find a way to get around it. And, you know, I understand the point of making a statement, but you're gotta do, there's a little balancing work here. You know, what is beneficial for the village versus what's beneficial for
That's,
synagogue.
that's why we.
Excuse me, wait.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So
Rocco, do you have?
I'm struggling with this a little bit.
Rocco?
I walked the property yesterday to take a look, and I'm looking at the renderings, I'm still making a decision.
Okay. That's
So
fair.
I'm gonna hold off on the verdict.
Okay. Well, you wouldn't be allowed to make a verdict anyway.
Well, not a verdict, a comment.
Yeah, I think that the Jerusalem stone has a more variegated look to it than it shows in this elevation.
That's right, yeah, we're a little
There's
limited.
a lot
on
of
what-
rusty and all kinds of stuff that softens it up considerably, and it has a very warm, creamy color to it.
Yeah.
Even at the whitest part of the stone, it tends to be a very pleasant looking. and there's nothing to say that whatever's planted in front of it won't grow a bit higher. You could still see the wall through it, but, you know,
Right. All right, we're gonna need some expert comments next. I think we have a code issue here as well.
Alright, so walls are not normally permitted unless it's for sanitary, enclosure. So, again, we appreciate the reason and the concession, cause originally it was, let's wall the whole thing. So the fence with the low wall, I don't think we have an issue with. The wall at the corner, yeah, my problem is I don't let people build walls even as fences, so if that's such a prominent corner, if people see that, then my code doesn't really allow for it. We had talked internally saying, you know, if you hid the thing a little bit with vegetation, we can maybe not make a big deal about it, that it's just call it completely security, it's a feature within the site. But if it's meant to make a statement, if it's meant to look like a wall and be on the outside of the property, then I think I have to route it through the zoning board. Now, the zoning board, you know, houses of worship they get a leg up when they go to the zoning board, so I don't feel like that would be a problem. But really, it's up to the planning board what you deem is appropriate for the site.
Well, who has the authority here? Do we have the authority to break code?
No,
Not alone. You can't
That's
grant,
why you're here.
you can't grant a variance, so what Brad's saying is he would have to route it
Through
to the
ZBA.
zoning board. However, that doesn't diminish your jurisdiction over it from more of an aesthetic area. So
Well, I
both of
mean,
you would have to approve it.
are we ARB too? I mean, are we walking through every board in the village?
Well, this is not a residential property, so ultimately, the planning board has final say over aesthetics, period.
So we're
And
not,
that's every
we're not
application.
compelled to go to the ARB with this.
I think you still would route it there, right, for the normal process, but it comes back to you as
Yeah,
their
a
comments, which you
recommendation.
have to either
Right.
approve or not. But I think one of the things that Brad touched on that is applicable to the zoning board is a little bit applicable to you too, which is the idea that religious uses are entitled to special accommodations that nobody else is. And this goes to Dave's point too of potentially being a precedent. There's an avenue here where the rationale for allowing it is related to their religious use that would not apply to any other use other than another religious use that was faced with the same problems.
Right, yeah.
So, I don't think the issue of precedent is as much a concern that this is gonna lead to some slippery slope of the entire village being walled off. This
Right,
could
but
be narrow,
regardless, we have
this
to.
could be narrowly done by both boards to
Right.
say that it's a very unique circumstance based on the special standards that apply this is a standard that's been imposed by the highest court of the state. It trumps everything. It trumps the statutes, it trumps the codes. It doesn't say your code doesn't apply, but it does say you have to try to give special accommodations where practical.
Right.
And that's kind of the question, and that, they're trying to work with you. It's not like they're saying this is what we want, and, we're not willing to be flexible. They're trying to work with you too, which shows some
Yeah.
back and forth
Well,
there.
we expect that. We've always had a good relationship.
No doubt, no doubt. This
So
is,
Anthony.
Yeah.
So this doesn't open the door to anybody based on what you said. This doesn't open the door to others. I want a wall on my property.
That's what he said.
no,
right?
maybe this
yeah,
St.
that's what
Mark's
he said.
Church, I don't know, like, I mean, in theory,
Yeah, that's what you said.
if it was carefully, if the decision is carefully drafted, which I would help do, to make it clear that this is being done as part of the special accommodation rules that apply only to religious uses, it wouldn't be a precedent for anybody else. So,
How well protected do you feel the property is on the backside? Let's say some irate neighbor jumps in their car, drives right down their driveway and it goes right through the fence.
To the east side of the property, I don't think there's ability there because there's quite a grade change
Okay.
from the lower,
Uh-huh.
like where the property line is.
Right.
I don't think we have to wall the whole thing.
Well, you got a parking lot at the Savings and Loan that is much less, apparently much less fortified than this entrance is.
Yeah, correct. So that is a area of vulnerability as well. That's where we'll have the fencing. If you go out there, if you've been there, they have the stone, I don't know how to describe them, like sculptures.
Yeah.
They were placed there for that purpose, to help prevent anti-ramming.
All right.
Britton, please.
I just think it should be said for the record that if they were coming in with the fencing that you, as you proposed it with the landscaping in front of it, and that was all you were asking for, if the board would accommodate that as a waiver. Because I think the applicant should know that maybe there's a phase one, maybe that's what they put in the short term. You get a waiver and you keep building this and abbreviate that time of concern, and then go, because the honest process, the process of the zoning board, it's gonna take you time. And then you have to come back here. So this, I'm not gonna say it totally takes out this summer, but it takes out the majority of the summer. So if there was something, you know, I'm sort of, my suggestion would be maybe this board would be willing to do the fencing and the landscaping, and you proceed down the route of trying to get the wall approved. You know, then we're accommodating your sense of urgency with something that we think is aesthetically attractive, and we don't have the power to approve the wall. So this board doesn't have the power to approve it. It's not that we don't.
So this isn't a waiver, no matter how you look at it, okay? This
It's
is
a
a
site plan waiver,
modification.
not a,
site plan.
not a variance.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if you would like to come before the board again, looking for a waiver with a considerably diminished aspect, and then, I mean, continue on this process. I'm not trying to discourage that in any way, but from the point of expedience and safety in an immediate manner, okay, we can grant you a waiver in the instances where we have jurisdiction to grant a waiver. In this particular instance, the way this is being presented, we don't have that authority. Am I saying that correctly?
I think so, unless Britain, this alternative, right, that they showed, basically what you're saying is,
If they
That's
did
the
one, instead of
alternative that you
like a
could-
type 1 and a type 2, the type 1 is the landscaping and fencing, type 2 is the wall. If you eliminate type 2 and you just say, we're gonna do type 1 for the entire, as shown on the site plan, I think I mean.
Then we can give them a waiver.
Couldn't we give them a waiver for that tonight?
I think so, for this,
So that's
for
your
this
choice.
version.
We just wanna make sure that you understand that we hear your sense of urgency, and that's a solution that will get this done expediently, as
appreciate
opposed to months from now.
I have to consult with Rabbi and the team there just to see, you know.
Without foreclosing the rest, still going on as. a-
Right, because you captured it, it's a sense of urgency, so we'd like to, the first step is start to remove some existing trees and some of the plants that are along Sunset. We really want to start earthwork there and start getting that ready to prepare for a fence to go in. So there's quite a bit of work that we need to get going on. We'd like to start, yesterday if we could have, but we've been waiting for this hearing, this meeting to present the case.
I mean, what is the actual timeline? Because if you're saying that the veneer stones aren't even in the country, what is the actual realistic timeline that you're working on?
So the idea is to have the security fence in place. If we could do the wall, we know the veneer is gonna take a while. The stone is gonna take some time to get
You
here.
could do the wall without the cladding.
Right, you could do the concrete stem wall without the cladding, and then come in and install as soon as that arrives.
I
It's gonna
think your
take
best
some time.
pathway
It's hard,
here
it's
is to
unknown.
have two separate entities, one where we're dealing with an immediate security situation and not, running through ZBA with it all. And,
Because the fencing's not the only, I mean, from, I'm looking at other aspects of what's going on here, there are also major substantial changes within the site, the pedestrian entrance, so this is not a minor change as a big picture item. There are substantial changes to the site here, so I'm just questioning how we can proceed as a waiver unless the whole submission's changed.
We're not
Well, the
We're
submission would
not
have to be
doing the
changed.
stone, yeah, the submission, there'll be two submissions,
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah, so there would have to be a separate submission for or amend
There's a,
the existing one.
right, there's a waiver submission that has what we're capable of granting.
Right.
And then there's a submission
Right.
to do what, needs to be done ultimately. And can take the time to walk through the process. But we
Something
do,
very-
our concern should be getting some degree of security on this site
Yeah, I just want to make sure that we're all
expeditiously.
Yeah, pronto.
talking the same language here, that's all.
Is there a scenario where, I'm sort of asking everybody, you and the consultants, the wall is put in, the hedge is put around it, which solves the immediate problem. You don't have the veneer anyway to have the exposed wall. You then go through the process finish the full process with the zoning board to ask for consent to have the exposed wall. And by the time that all works its way through, I mean, is that a scenario that could
Why
work?
are we granting the wall then?
You're not really. It's completely covered by the hedge.
Yeah, but you're still building a wall.
Yeah, but I think what Brad is,
Yeah, I was,
Brad is saying that a wall that's covered by, a hedge isn't really a wall at least in his view.
What?
Well, you don't see it.
You don't see it.
Really fast.
If
to see
it's
feels
invisible,
Why not? Cover it up.
in trying to be accommodating, I had said if it was fully vegetated and screened, I wasn't going to call it out as a wall.
Okay. All right. If a wall isn't a wall, then a wall isn't a wall.
Look, a foundation's not a wall either, right? So, just because the material doesn't make it a wall. If it's not exposed, it may not, that's Brad's determination to make.
Okay.
So,
If Brad says it's not a wall, then it's not a wall.
I think what Mr. Pasca has proposed, like there, would be very helpful for us in the immediate future too. We can do the hedge in front of the wall, then go through the variance process if needed. Go ahead.
But what are we doing about the wall around the sides here? And all the rest of the exposed?
The low wall where we have pickets on top as part
Well,
of
there, we've got the entrance to,
The bollards.
I'm talking about this. I mean, these are all those are bowlers, but
We
these
have
are walls.
pillars and pilasters tied into fences everywhere, gates, driveway gates. It's not,
I beg your pardon?
we have features like that throughout the village that are tied into gates and driveway gates, those pillars and pilasters and
I'm just talking about the walls that are holding this gate up. That's a wall, right?
the low walls, yeah.
No, the one with the gate in it. The ones at the bottom are the bowlers, right?
Well, we don't have a design.
I don't know where that is.
That's exterior though on the property, that's not being, that's inside the property, that's not on the
I
street.
think
We're
that's
looking
the
at.
gate.
Yeah, but we're still looking at a wall. And you,
Within the property in front of the synagogue.
but it's still a wall.
But I think as your
These
counsel
sections
said,
here, that's what they're looking at.
it's allowed,
Well, those two.
so what?
Did you say that?
We really have.
I'm sorry, I missed that.
That we
He
would
said
be
that
allowed
in this type of situation, the wall could be allowable
This is gonna be
because of the
substantial
special
enough to hang the
treatment you would give
gates on.
a
That's-
religious institution.
Yes, except that's a zoning board determination.
Right, right, so it's not something that,
And we're trying to just separate out what this board could do immediately, without waiting for it to go to the zoning board and come back, which is gonna be probably at least 3 months, given where we are in the month. Like, even if you got it filed tomorrow, we're probably looking at a few months before you could get back here. So, we're trying to come up with something that would give you a temporary measure to get going while still pursuing what you want to pursue.
which we very much appreciate, Counselor.
Hi, my name is Jeff Zuckerman. I'm the president of the Hampton Synagogue. Thank you for having this hearing. I wanted to, if I may, just say, I appreciate your working with us to allow us to get something in place. Our high season is coming up in May. In high season, we have many hundreds of people at the synagogue, both congregants and guests, and sometimes prominent guests. So security is essential, and so it's very important that we have something up. We're aiming for May 1st. We've promised that we would have security for people. They're all concerned. We get phone calls. There's not a day I don't get stopped when I'm here asking, where's the security? Where's that fence you promised? So I really appreciate your working with us. Now, I just want to reemphasize what the rabbi said and what Steve has said, that deterrence is a very important aspect of security. And we push back the consultant quite a bit. We don't want to be operating in a fortress. We want to have something that melds nicely with the character of West Hampton. And so we said, no, we're going to use trees. We're going to use hedging. We want as little wall as possible. But on that corner of Sunset and Brook, where a car can get up speed coming from 27, who knows how many miles an hour, or a truck, and try to ram through, if it's covered, it's true that that the wall will still have the same effect. But if it's not covered, we don't want somebody to think they're going to try to do that. The point is, have that wall visible as an important deterrent for security. And so I think Steve's plan calls for planting grasses, and we don't want the wall to look fortress-like. So anything you can do to help us kind of get the security that we think we need and that we're being told we need would be very much appreciated. And I appreciate that it may take a couple of steps, but we need to have effective security in place before this season. I mean, I think there are times when we have more people at the synagogue, especially in season, than are on Main Street in West Hampton Beach. So I just want thank you for. I'm happy to answer any questions, or Steve or Rabbi.
Yeah, I hope we could avoid, like in the city, where you park garbage trucks and snow plows, and you drag in temporary concrete. Well, they're not boulders. I don't know what you call the thing, but they
You
bring
see on
them
the
in.
the things you see on the highway, sticking those,
Yeah,
which is not
exactly.
aesthetically pleasing. Or
We
like
didn't
hell.
want to. We didn't
or
want
getting
to.
DPW to put their dump trucks on the corner there.
Yeah,
Exactly.
It's a temporary
That's what we
solution.
wanted to avoid.
Yeah.
that.
yeah. So if we could, a way we can
Well, we weren't
expedite
even
this.
considering that. Where did that come from?
What?
As in an interim emergency situation, no, we don't want to do it. We're just saying if they,
No,
It's-
avoid that.
We're not doing that. That's for sure.
No, but if we don't want to drag ass along until,
Who's drag us?
I don't know. I want to try to figure out a way we could expedite all this as quick as we
Isn't that
can.
what we're working on, Larry?
I think so. I hope so. Because the alternative is putting garbage trucks and that kind of junk out there. And I'd hate for us to have to do that.
I don't know, I mean, this is obviously a security consultant issue, I know where you're going with this, I understand it, but it's like by hardening one target, then, to my mind, you shift the emphasis to a softer target, which is right across the street. So, I don't see how you may be moving your problem, but not eliminating the problem.
My
Because you
assumption
could still get a good gust of speed coming up Mill from Walgreens and drive right into Jack's house.
Look.
And I'm not
I
trying to be
think-
difficult, I'm just trying to think this through, like.
I think you need to understand that everyone in this room, whether it's you or us, we're lay people when it comes to security. All right? Do I need to bring in the FBI in here? Do I need to bring in state law enforcement? Do I need to bring in Israeli security that have gone through this? You said before, you made the point about bringing those, what you see back in the city, the garbage trucks. Don't think that they weren't pushing us to do that also. And they said, but there are, we explained their aesthetic issues. What I do fail to understand, I think back to COVID, where you had extraordinary circumstances, particularly here in this village, and you made certain exceptions. I remember before we bought, 142 Mill, and they were allowed to suddenly have served dinner, outdoors, this and that. I can't believe during COVID that everyone had to go to the ARB, to the zoning board. I mean, there was something extraordinary. You have a very significant, prominent, vast Jewish community that is at risk. That is at risk. It has been made very clear to us. This is a disaster waiting to happen. This is an extraordinary situation that requires extraordinary solutions and matters. We don't have time to go to a zoning board, to go to this board, to go to that board, all right? We are literally in a time of the essence situation. No different than COVID. No different than COVID. And that's why we're appealing to you that please allow us to do what we need to do. We have been hypersensitive to the aesthetics of this village, trying to find some happy medium that would also satisfy the village and secure us. But like COVID, this is an extraordinary circumstance that requires extraordinary measures.
Good evening. My name's Erwin Krasnow. I'm the mayor of West Hampton Dunes. I've had the pleasure of being before this board in the past many times. I've been called, I guess, the Don Quixote of West Hampton Dunes, tilting at windmills with Larry, but also fixing what I think were some wrongs, such as the $6.50 a gallon gas at Valero, and some of the issues that were happening in the village of West Hampton Dunes, which wound up having me run for office as opposed to just hanging out on the beach. This is kind of important to my heart. I mean, I'm actually sick and I'm here today because I felt it was very strongly to be here. I've canceled my other meetings and stuff and I stayed out east for this, but it is a time-sensitive situation. And this board does have some authority to allow them to start with some of the landscaping, some of the construction, some of the footings. I recall when I built the 7-Eleven, you actually recommended that we put ballards in front for security reasons. That actually came from this board. So having ballards, for somebody who's basically almost parking and then stepping on the gas to go through a window that could hurt somebody, the ballards are really necessary when somebody could possibly be doing, 30 miles an hour. I wish we didn't have to do this. And this was something that was discussed, but since this plan came into place and we're working on it, unfortunately, the situation happened in Bloomfield, and in Michigan, and ironically, my village clerk, Robin Santora, whose husband, Dave Santora, was a Southampton cop, with a patrol car in West Hampton, and she had a irrigation business. She actually grew up in that synagogue, and she had friends and family that were actually there during the attack 2 weeks ago. So, when you see that happen and it gets on the news, and in another part of my life, I run some cemeteries, and we've always said that when a cemetery gets vandalized, we don't want it to hit the paper, because once it hits the paper, people get the idea, hey, this is a great idea. So having what happened in Michigan, people are saying, hey, this is a great idea. And I agree from a lesson that my dad taught me as a kid. I mean, there's no lock that's going to keep somebody who's dishonest out. It'll stop somebody from thinking of stealing or doing something, but you can only prevent. There are other possible ways that somebody could inflict harm. However, what we're trying to do is mitigate the easiest ways where somebody in a pickup truck or somebody in another truck could try to just, ride and ram through, the gates there where you have 500, 600 people. I mean, just, the car just running over people sitting in pews or standing could be devastating to us. I mean, I'm a member, my family goes there, My daughter's pregnant and due in June. We plan to bring the baby there, so I really am appealing to you to, within what's in your power, to let us get done what we can get done now. We will go to, whatever, we need to go to the zoning board or whatever else relief we need, but to get this project started. So like Larry said, we don't have to get, what you see on the Long Island Expressway, those big white concrete structures put on the corner there, or asking Mayor Urban to, allow us to park the DPW trucks, on the corner. So I think the plan that they've done is aesthetic and nice, and if there's things that this board would prefer differently, we're more than happy to accommodate you. However, the main emphasis is security, and the structural wall, whether you want to call it a wall or if it's behind hedges, it won't be a wall, I think is a necessity. It's not a luxury, and it has to be of a certain height to provide the right type of security. And that's, what we're asking for, and I apologize that, if you're feeling any pressure, but think of how much pressure we're feeling, when the season starts in May, and we could be a possible target in the Hamptons. So I appeal to you from a personal, from my heart, to ask you to please, work with us to let us get started on this project with some of the landscaping stuff immediately, and whatever else we can do, and we'll be happy to work with you and the boards in terms of the design, the aesthetics, whatever you want. But let us get a jump on this, because it really became more of an urgent situation once this situation happened in Michigan. And plus, in the last 4 weeks, there's a war going on in Iran, and that's heightened people's senses of anti-Semitism and just anti-Americanism and all kinds of stuff.
Come on.
What?
Come on.
Come on, what? You want me to cry?
Oh, I know that's coming.
No, but so, I mean.
But it's unnecessary.
But it's,
Erwin, it's unnecessary.
but-
We're right here with you.
No, I know that, and I just, like I said, I mean, I am
We don't have to
passionate
go
about
through
it.
World history now. We've got it.
I'm not, this
And
is,
we're here
but
to
this is,
help
but I appreciate, this is current history. I'm not talking about stuff that happened a year ago, this is currently happening, and that's why it's more of a concern for the rabbi, the president, and the congregants now. That's why,
And we're here to help you.
and
That's our job.
I appreciate that, Ralph, and everybody else on the board. Thank you for listening to me.
And we've trusted you to do the right thing for the village in all of the projects. So please use that as an example.
The rabbi would usually be the one holding me to integrity. In this case, I will hold the rabbi to the integrity that you want to get this project aesthetically
I don't think
pleasing.
he needs help with integrity. You don't need help with integrity.
No.
I have other people for that.
Him.
Thank you for your time. I
Thank
appreciate
you
it.
very much.
By the way, Ralph,
Yes, sir.
you should know, in the last 4 weeks, 10 synagogues have now been firebombed. 10.
I'm aware of what's going on, Ralph. I'm aware of the threat.
We are considered one of the prime targets for the American Jewish community.
I don't doubt that. And we're here to help you protect.
Amazing. Shit.
Ay.
You're looking to me.
Well, yeah.
I think, I mean, look,
I think we need two separate
I would say-
submissions.
my suggestion is,
Yes.
I'm gonna go back to this, is bifurcate this into two things. One is the immediate that you can approve, if you want to. I'm not telling you what to do, I never do that.
Okay.
But if you want to do something tonight,
Yes.
what you could do tonight would be to approve, I think subject to the resubmission of a compliant plan, but just approve a site plan waiver with respect to a perimeter plan that matches what they've submitted, except for it fully screens any wall that's shown, because that is the one thing you can't approve without sending it to the zoning board. Then Steve can come back with phase 2, which would essentially replace the screening with the cladding that you want to use and do the fine tuning. That you can send to the ARB. That you can, Brad can send to the zoning board at the same, they can double track to the ARB and the zoning board. And by the time, sometime this summer, you'll have that decision finalized, and maybe by then the supplies from Israel will be here. I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, that's best thing I could come up with for an immediate solution to the security problem would be that.
And we're fortunate,
parking lot.
They're ready, they're ready, and with the US
They're
Open.
down in
and-
the dunes.
I'm staging them at Cupstock Park.
I mean, it's hard enough to find really good contractors, but this, with the US
I'm
Open
sure
this
you'll have
year,
the
it's even more
contractors.
difficult.
And I asked for clarification, just, you were talking about the wall. I'm gonna come up here to, the right place. And we're talking about a wall, really two things. One is the 4-foot wall on the corner, whether we could do that or not, and whether, if
Well,
we
we're
do that,
saying
it could be
you can
exposed.
do that, but it's going to have to be screened
Okay,
for the time being.
okay.
Fine.
I think that's terrific, and then we'll have part two, if I understand it
Part
right.
two will be the walls that go further down and the wall that, I guess, encloses that entranceway.
Any unscreened wall, really.
Well,
Any unscreened
I'm
wall.
wondering whether, so we could screen the 2-foot wall, and that would be okay in part one?
What do you, Brad, what do you
Care
think?
about the 2 foot. That's
Yeah.
part, that's a fence, it's just a feature of a fence, I don't know.
Okay, so we're talking about the corner of Brook and Sunset. Okay,
So you're going to have a screened wall at Brook and Sunset, right?
Catches or privets or something in front of it.
and then
Whatever
we'll,
it takes
we'll
to
come
cover
back,
Then you'll come back and by then your stone will be in and, you'll have two different plans. One for us, one that we'll be giving you approval to do tonight, okay? And another plan that when you come back, I guess, next month or, whenever it is.
Ralph?
Yes, sir.
What is, or Brad, what is the definition of a wall?
What?
Let's not go backwards.
Yeah,
Oh, that's going backwards?
yes.
You're risking, don't snatch,
I thought I was going forward.
don't snatch defeat from the jaws of victory, okay?
Yeah, let's not define that too carefully.
Okay, so how are we dealing with the protection at the entranceway? That have the bollards, that design seems a separate thing from the corner.
well, we have the fence, and we're gonna have a gate in that main entrance.
But you can't have the exposed wall for now. How are you going to handle that for now? No exposed wall other than the 2-foot, which isn't a wall, it's part of the fence.
Well, the wall is inside the property. How far back is that, Steve?
Approximately 20 feet, probably more than 25 feet.
Help me.
So the wall element in the main entranceway would be set back 20 feet or so.
What did you say, Brad?
Screen it, for now, screen it.
But your plan actually shows trees and stuff in front of those walls.
Yeah, what,
Anything that appears to be a wall is gonna be screened, okay, except for the 2-foot foundation.
Okay.
So the low things that are seeming are fine, it's just these two walls here that you wanna have screened?
Anything
Okay.
that's
That's-
bigger than the
that's the
2-foot
area, okay,
wall,
fine.
gotta be screened.
And then we can always ask.
And then you can,
Okay.
then on the follow-on application where we're dealing with the ARB, we're dealing with the ZBA.
So we can install it and then screen it and then deal with whether or not we can unscreen it or leave it screened.
Well,
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's fine, thank
And
you.
that addresses the security need immediately. We'll
Yes.
get you done tonight.
Thank you.
And we don't have to,
Derek,
we don't have to.
I have a couple of small things. The southern fence along the parking lot, I think you're showing it too close to the parking lot. You're gonna have somebody that's gonna pull in and knock the fence down. It's gotta be at least 3 or 4 feet back of the sidewalk. Northeast corner, there's been a lot of flooding there. Right now, there's 2 parking spaces for the neighbor.
Oh, their driveway in there?
Yeah.
That's all gonna be fenced off now. But you're gonna have to run some kind of a berm. There's a berm there now. You put it in your fence. You're gonna have to run some kind of berm through there that ties in so it floods on Brook. It doesn't go into the property.
Pushes out to the street, you're right, gotcha.
Because
It doesn't shed onto
That's
their
low
property.
there.
Yeah.
it's not a matter of shedding, it's a matter of preventing water that sometimes accumulates on Brook from running into your property and also running.
Oh, I got you. Understood.
You'll see that driveway is firm needs a little attention there. We have a lot of flooding problems. I think it's going away because we added more drainage. But it needs attention that you omitted from your plan set the proposed grading. We're gonna need to see that,
Sure.
as well as details for your wall and that kind of stuff.
We have details for the wall.
So, you need to get all that stuff, details of the walls by your gates. You know, those need to get into Brad so we can check those.
Okay.
So it doesn't necessarily affect approval now, but there's a lot of work to be done before you can start putting that fence and wall up.
So then maybe I'm gonna suggest, I'm gonna amend my, if there's some details that still need to be worked out on the site, is what you're saying, right? On the site plan itself
Yeah.
is still,
For a building permit, is that where you?
well,
Wait till.
For the modification.
I don't know if it depends on what you need to get started in the next couple of weeks.
Give them a waiver for everything except.
But I think what Ron is saying, this is a little bit more,
Urgent.
that everything except is, there's some details that maybe,
Yeah, but they don't necessarily, what they're gonna do first is come in and regrade the.
well, that's what I was gonna amend, here's an amended suggestion, and we'll see if it works for you. Tonight, you could allow them to do certain prep work, whatever prep work you need to do in the next 2 weeks, right? Because we meet again in 2 weeks. In between today and 2 weeks from today, you correct the plans to accommodate whatever
The
they need.
waiver?
Plus, you show us the plan that's screened, okay? In 2 weeks, you can then get the formal site plan waiver. And this is a suggestion, I'm not
Okay.
saying you get it until they say you
I like
do.
where you're going.
Get a formal site plan waiver in 2 weeks. We have a resolution that confirms it's being done through special circumstances relating to, et cetera. We'll put in the findings. And then at that point, you then go to phase 2. So we're really like phase 1A and 1B.
Sure, yeah.
Whatever you need to get started in the next 2 weeks,
We grant tonight.
grant
That would be
tonight,
great, yeah.
prep work,
Yep.
clear whatever
You
you
need
need to
about-
get started.
You're gonna
We
need
have
2
2
weeks
weeks
to do
anyway.
that.
You're gonna need a couple of
And we
weeks.
need about, if we ordered the fence today, it's gonna be 3 weeks before it got
Right,
here
so,
anyway.
so
It needs
having a
fabrication
meeting in
time.
2 weeks where you get the full actual resolution,
The waiver.
where you've worked out the details with Ron and Brad and Britton.
It has to be a modification,
What's that?
doesn't it?
Whatever, it doesn't, to me, what you call it is less important. We're gonna do a written resolution for it. Okay.
Okay, this is
So-
where, are we getting
Maybe we don't call
Some-
it a waiver. We'll call
something,
tonight,
we need something like are we gonna get like an actual modified site plan for the waiver?
Yes.
yes, that's what I'm telling.
Because right now,
that's
we
what I'm
don't,
telling Steve.
right now we're talking.
No, no,
but
that's what
nobody's-
I'm saying.
That's what
That's
we're
what I'm
trying to figure
saying.
out. It's like, we need to know what we're actually approving.
Yeah, that's
All I'm
exactly what he's
Saying,
saying.
Dave, is today.
Rather than provide a blanket waiver
That's what I
tonight.
want to avoid, because we
Okay.
don't even know
Because we
what
don't
we're,
know. I agree.
talk what. we're
But
talking about right
meanwhile,
now.
they can get the site prep work
That's fine, we
done.
do that all the
In the
time.
next 2 weeks, you do that all the
Yeah.
time.
Yep.
Steve will get, he's good at turning things around. He's gonna get, a fully compliant phase 1 plan.
Waiver plan.
Well, we're gonna call it a
Modification,
modification, because we're gonna do a written resolution anyway. Let's just call it what it is. It's a modification, but it doesn't matter. We'll get it done in 2 weeks. And that'll be phase 1, and then you can have a phase 2 plan that's gonna be routed to zoning board and ARB. Is that fair?
That
Do
makes
we
sense to
understand
me.
that?
Yes, yeah.
So we can put it on the agenda, you can get the plans to us, we'll put it on the agenda for a short discussion, we'll have later in the agenda, we'll have a resolution,
Great.
provided that, and we'll let you know that you met the conditions.
But
So get it
I
in
like
early
to-
enough so
yeah.
they can
Yeah,
review.
we-
Sure.
Yeah, so we can review it too. I mean, if I get it in the afternoon of the meeting, it doesn't do us any good.
Right.
But just, and talk to Ron and Brad and Britton so that they're all satisfied. They show up in 2 weeks from today, and they're satisfied that whatever you've submitted is a compliant plan, right?
Sure.
In addition to whatever you submit in paper, electronic submission. So that Megan can get it right out to us.
And Ron, can I stop by and I want to talk to you in detail about what you were just talking about, any of the concerns you had.
I can stop by your office.
Okay, yeah, that'd be great.
It's easier for me.
All right, so
I want to make sure we're accommodating.
the only action we need to take at this moment is
To authorize the site,
authorize
whatever work is.
you,
Yes.
Brad,
Yeah.
to permit them to do site prep work.
That's it.
Okay. Has anybody got anything to add to this before we?
with that.
You good with that? You good with that?
We're good.
All right, unanimous.
Okay.
All right, so Brad, please consider yourself authorized, yada, yada.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Is that bad? I mean, it was a little painful here and there.
Pain I expect, it's fine.
Okay,
But I'd rather have this pain than, God forbid, a problem there.
Yeah.
absolutely.
All of us.
That's the
We
way
all feel that
and
way.
You didn't have anything to say on the podium?
Myself?
Yeah.
Steve covered it. I'm just here for show. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I know.
All right. We have minutes to approve for March 12th. Motion, all in favor? Aye. You want to consult us?
Can we talk about SPREP? Does the applicant have to be here?
No, it's a work session, so if they're not here, you can
Bring that up.
still.
Sure, I mean, is there anything you don't like about it?
No, they basically took out scrubby landscaping and they're putting back in, they confirmed that it was a very dense screening and it's gonna look similar to what it looked like before, but better.
Yep.
I think we should approve the site plan waiver.
But we don't wanna delay anymore, because if you've driven by it
It looks
recently,
horrible.
It looks really bad.
Yeah, it does, I agree.
And we wanna be able to pressure them to get this done before this evening.
Okay, so then I need a motion to waive. So moved. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
And what are we doing with Old Riverhead Road? We're gonna make them show up on the 9th?
So, yeah, so Old River Road was coming back on the 9th, the public hearing anyway, because of the special
Oh.
exception use.
Yeah.
This is what, so the app, so, but there was a little miscommunication because there was a piece being carved off. So there was two applications going at once. We said we should really just put them together, which I think we kind of agreed on, but there's two representatives, two applications. It's the same space. They're coming back to us on April 9th.
Are you talking about the North Mall?
Yeah.
Okay, we had another Old Riverhead Road application, so
Yeah.
you gotta be more specific.
I'm sorry, the North.
So the North Mall is basically moving a demising
I'm, like,
wall
really
between two
confused.
units to a different location, making a smaller unit. It's all compliant with parking and septic. We just wanted to have a board discussion with it. They're gonna be on again. We're gonna merge them with Jim Hume's Hampton Endoscopy on the 9th.
Oh my God.
And
It's a
hopefully.
visual image.
Yeah. This is for the ice cream.
You don't want to
It's gonna
replay
be
that
ice cream and
one on the
endoscopy
video
decision. Not making that up.
Seriously?
I am not making that up.
But we did talk
I
about.
think we need to look into this a little bit more.
I just wanted to make sure that the board had seen it and talked about it before they get merged with the endoscopy.
That's awesome.
Have mercy on us.
Yeah.
Have a nice
So before we adjourn, we have to go over, I don't have my email up, that memo.
Yes.
Clinton wrote. So we have been trying to fine tune everything, and I'm just take the lead here. So what happens is, people come in with applications, right? It's not up to us to decide whether it's an application that you guys will like or you won't like, it's up to you guys to decide that.
Well, it's your
Wait.
decision to get it to the application point where it's board presentable. People can walk in with applications and Brad can say to them, no, we're not gonna have a massage parlor here.
Right, we do it quite often.
We do that often. Before it gets to you guys, it's been pulling routed by us. Sometimes there's things missing, but we try to pick it up. You guys have every right to say yes or no. You don't have to have unanimous votes, all of those things. So if you don't like an application, it's simple as that. You don't like it, you just turn it down. But what we're doing is, we want,
Do you have another copy of that?
yeah,
I wanna,
well, she might, hold on, I have to use this. We want it to be like, if you've watched, maybe the trustees or the ZBA or whatever, a lot of the times, people come up and they're like, well, I don't know what to present, or you guys have already made up your mind, or whatever the case may be, and we're kind of massaging them along. We want it to be more of a process where, you know,
wanna see this?
Joe Schmo walks up and he has an application. You call it, they go to the podium, they make their presentation, and the five of you listen to it without questions, without input, without anything. You listen to their full-fledged application, digest it, take notes, whatever. That'll be their presentation. Then you'll turn to your applicants, and you're gonna ask them to weigh in on it.
Well, we're doing that while the applicant's in the room? I mean,
Yeah.
hasn't the procedure been that we get our consultants?
You're gonna get our memos prior to the
Prior
meeting.
to.
The applicants are no longer getting them because they're getting them and then they're making changes and they're making piecemeal submittals and
Right.
we can't keep track of it.
Right.
So we're providing you the board our memos. You're gonna give us the opportunity to verbalize our memos while we're sitting here. And then after they've addressed them, then we send them to them the next day. So Gabby is a perfect example. I
Right.
just sent Gabby, Brad, Ron, and my memo after he left the room.
But he didn't know that stuff, so.
Right.
He didn't know that stuff, so he made his presentation independent of our comments, which we
Right.
think is important.
Right. And you guys will have their comments, so you can read them while they're making the presentation. Make your own notes next to them. Then you will then ask the consultants to read their comments
Right.
into it.
Okay.
Then the consultants have the ability to say to the applicant, these are my comments. And the applicant can say, no, yes, because a lot of the times, things are overlapping and we kind of go in circles and we go in circles.
Now, what's the
Then-
timeline on these consultant?
So that's the problem, is that so we get an application and we told people if they're in 10 days prior, they're on the agenda. I'm not here every day. Ron's not doing this every day. So sometimes we say, hey, your owner's authorization is not good, so there's work that has to happen to make the application to complete, to put it on the agenda. We've been trying to get the memos out, at least a few days, not the day of the meeting.
Right.
But there's, it takes us time to review, it comes in and it's complete, that doesn't mean that we've reviewed it and written a memo and gone to the site and.
But if it goes on the agenda, we have everything we think we need from them within the 10 days.
And within a couple of days of the meeting, we should see whatever notes the three of you have
Right, and so
in
what
our email.
what we tried to do also, which drives to your comment, is that the paper copies are in your bin when the application comes in 10 days in advance. I've been trying to just send out the application, half the people don't send it, I have to scan it. We need some work on the we need to work on the applicants, but the application, the drawings, and all the memos in one email to you, we thought that was better than sending Ron's comments and my comments and you getting this bombardment.
Well, that's what I'm
The-
trying to
The
get at.
sacrifice of you getting everything all at once in one email is that it takes more time to get to that spot.
Right.
So if you wanna go back to Ron wrote his memo on Monday, I wrote it on Thursday, you want the site plan application
No,
before
we
that.
don't even want to consider the application until
Until you
we've
see the
got your
comments. So-
comments.
So we will try and do our best to get them
I
out
don't think
there.
that's right, though. You have to consider an application. If we've deemed it ready for a work session or a public hearing, and we've put it on the agenda, you have to consider it. Because what if the consultants don't have any comments? You still have to consider the application, so.
I kind of agree with that, and I'm gonna put on the hat that I wear when I'm presenting applications, because I do that to every other municipality besides this one. It feels unfair, and I'm gonna just say, I think you should tweak your idea in one respect. I always feel like I'm sandbagged by the consultants when there's a memo out there, and I haven't seen it, and it's being presented to a board,
Right.
and I don't even know what it says. It feels unfair when you're the applicant and that happens to you. So what I would suggest, I get your idea of not wanting them to have it so far in advance that they're then changing things at the last
Well,
minute,
we're addressing
but you
it at
should
the
hand it to
podium.
them before you comment on it. I think it's not after the
You can
meeting.
hand them to them when they
Yeah.
walk in the room.
So after they do their presentation, before you turn to them, there's a packet that goes to the applicants
I
to
like
say,
that.
here's our comments.
Because they run
Now
out of
we'll tell the
hands.
board what they are.
Right.
At least they have them in front of them. They can
But
follow along with it.
But the problem with that, again, is these applicants skip the part where they make the presentation. Because if you hand them, oh, here's comments, then they start reading this comment, and then,
Yeah.
because this
I'm
is
just saying when, not when they're making their thing. After they go,
yes.
and then the board's about to turn to you three and say, what do you have to say? Here are our comments.
I like what you're
It's a memo
saying.
from Britton, maybe a memo from Ron, maybe not, a memo from, whatever it is. Whatever you guys have decided to do, hand it to them, so at least they feel like, at least I have it, I can follow along.
We have the same problem the other way. This is how I would do it, is you don't get my comments, and they don't get my comments. They come in, make a presentation to you all at a work session, you talk about it, and then the day after, or after this meeting, here's our comments, by the way, and then you all get it at the same time.
That's fair.
You could.
Yeah.
But that extends it out a little bit.
That throws.
But I also think by sending our comments to the board, the board's considering, you know, the wall is a perfect example. I wrote in my memo, you know, if we were different, it was screened. We told the applicant, if you screen this, we could approve this, and they said, we don't wanna screen it. So, and
Well,
we
we
said
want a
that's.
statement. And it was like, well, then I can't sit there and tell the neighbor that they can't have a wall if you're looking at a giant wall in the corner. And that was my point. I was like, I can be a little obtuse and go, looks like a hedge to me, Mrs. So-and-so, but if it looks like a wall, it's a wall. So that's why, yeah, I get your point. Oh, if it's vegetated, it's not a wall? Of course it is, but at least I can protect myself a little bit in being equitable to
But
And
everyone.
also
the
think the
compelling
board-
need for security can
Right.
be a good argument.
Yes.
The board also needs some, you know, the reason that we're here is to prepare you for the meeting. Because Ron sees things that I don't see, and I see things that, I don't know, everybody probably sees the same thing as
I,
us.
I like your comments ahead of time.
But like, it's good for you to be thinking about it when you
I
get
want
here and
to.
it's not, you know, ripping through your folders, you know, before the meeting.
I think a lot of it, what we're seeing is people aren't making their own presentations. People are coming up and we're kind of just saying, okay, well, we've all looked at it and the consultants say this and blah, 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 and then we're just like sitting here. So we have to force people to make their presentation, to say what they want to present, and then say, this is how we feel. And then the five of you can digest it and talk about it amongst yourself. You can go down the line if you see.
And even if it adds a meeting, even if it adds 2 weeks to an application, I
People are
agree
getting
with
on
you.
faster because remember, everything used to be public hearing. Everything was public notice, so they wouldn't see you for a month until I thought it was complete. So now we're like, no, all right, this is pretty complete, let's get a work session, so you all could have substantive comments.
Right.
Not just feel like it's so far down the line.
Yep.
And what we haven't been able to solve, and I don't know if we ever will, is an applicant deals with us for a month or two, and finally it's complete enough, and they come up and they just skip over the presentation process and act
Right.
like everybody knows what's going on. And, you know, for people who are in the audience who might not like a particular application, it always feels like it's the planning board's idea that this application is happening, or it's the applicant's
Or it's
idea.
our job to present it, which is not.
It's
Oh, but the guy who did the Appliance World application, he did a good
That
job.
was,
He did
that
a
was,
good job.
that was a
That's the way it's
perfect
supposed to
example of
work.
exactly how we,
Right.
that was our
Exactly
first
how it's
application that we
supposed
said,
to work.
you're gonna present, you're not getting the memos. And that's how we like it, we think that went
But
smoothly.
you said you feel sandbagged by that we have memos that he hasn't seen yet, so now we're.
No, but he doesn't have a problem as long as it's at the meeting. I mean, that's
As
what.
long as we don't see them, then you're not
Yeah,
saying that.
I just think when you start making, and they do this in Southampton town like crazy, where the planner gets up and